It begins before sound, before wind, before the first spark dared to become light. There was a movement, gentle, unseen, yet endless, a shimmer through nothingness, a rhythm that pulsed long before the first heartbeat ever echoed through creation. It was water. Not the kind you can cup in your hands, not yet. But the idea of water, the potential to flow, to merge, to remember. A cosmic whisper that said, life will move. When Earth was born, it was a place of fire, a newborn world wrapped in chaos. Molten rock hissed and cracked under storms of meteors. But somewhere within that violence, a cool breath began to gather. Steam condensed. Rain fell for the first time, and the planet exhaled. Imagine that rain falling for millions of years, unceasing, relentless. Every drop carving valleys, filling basins, kissing stone into sand, until at last oceans were born. And with them, silence gave way to rhythm. That rhythm, that steady in and out, is the ocean's breath. It has never stopped. Every wave that rises and falls is the echo of that first exhale, the planet's way of reminding itself that it is alive. Tonight, we drift into that breath, into the vast blue memory that has shaped every heartbeat since the dawn of time. Because water is not just what we drink or swim in, it is what we are. More than 70% of your body is water. But it's not just inside you, it is you. The oceans are your blood turned outward. The tides, your pulse stretched across continents. When you breathe, when you cry, when you fall asleep, you're joining a rhythm that began billions of years ago. Now think about this. Before there were trees, before there were continents, before there was even oxygen in the air, there was sea. It held the first whispers of chemistry that would one day become consciousness. Hydrogen and oxygen, the simplest, most abundant elements in the universe, found each other and began to dance. And from that dance, everything came: storms, clouds, rivers, veins, tears, love. To understand water is to understand the language of creation itself. Because water doesn't just exist, it becomes. It flows into everything it touches. It adapts. It transforms. And somehow, through this constant transformation, it remembers. Every drop in the ocean has lived 1,000 lives. What you sip tonight might have once been part of a glacier, or a storm over the Nile, or a tear from a creature that no longer exists. Water is the great traveler, the only being that has touched every part of the planet and lived to tell the story. It moves through soil, cloud, river, body, and then back again, never dying, only changing form. It is, quite literally, the planet's breath made visible. And yet, water does not demand attention. It moves quietly. It wears down mountains, not through force, but through patience. It connects every living thing without needing recognition. In a world obsessed with permanence, water reminds us that strength lies in flow. So tonight, as you listen, I invite you to drift with it, to imagine yourself floating on that first ancient tide. No name, no destination, just movement. Because in that stillness, you might begin to hear it. The ocean breathing, a sound as old as time, a sound that shaped your ancestors, your heartbeat, your thoughts, a sound that perhaps still remembers you. This is the story of water, how it became the womb of life, the mirror of emotion, the architect of balance, and the quiet voice of the planet that never stopped whispering, breathe. Welcome to the ocean's breath, how water creates life. Chapter 1, The Cradle of Creation. It began not in sunlight, but in darkness, deep beneath the newborn sea, where no light dared to travel, and yet something was stirring. Billions of years ago, the ocean floor was a place of fire and ash. Vents cracked open in the crust of the earth, releasing heat from the planet's molten heart. Superheated water gushed upward, rich in minerals, iron, and carbon. Around those vents, the sea shimmered with strange colors, clouds of green and gold, like underwater auroras. And there, in that cauldron of chaos, something miraculous happened. Chemistry began to dream. The molecules floating through those dark waters collided, separated, and collided again, over and over, for millions of years. Carbon met hydrogen, nitrogen met oxygen. They formed little spirals, then loops, then membranes that could hold themselves together. At first, they were just patterns, reactions, but eventually, one of those patterns learned something extraordinary: how to copy itself. That was the whisper of life, not a cell, not a creature, just a spark of persistence, a structure that could say, I will become again. From that moment, water was no longer just setting of creation. It became its co-creator. You could say life was born in water, but perhaps it's truer to say life is water, finally learning to hold form. Every living thing since that moment carries the ocean inside it. Your blood, for instance, it's not a coincidence that it tastes of salt. It's a memory, a signature left behind by those ancient seas where life first opened its eyes. When the first cells began to drift in those early oceans, they floated freely, tiny islands of possibility. Some learned to feed on sunlight, Some fed on chemicals around volcanic vents. In time, they gathered into colonies and then communities, sharing nutrients, signals, energy. And from that togetherness, complexity bloomed. Tiny threads of DNA began weaving stories. Stories that would one day become forests, insects, whales, and you. Think of it. The atoms in your body once swam freely in the first oceans. They remember the pull of tides, the rhythm of waves, the silence of the deep. When your heart beats, it follows the same cadence as the self. A slow in, a slow out, the ocean breathing through you. We often imagine life as something separate from its origins, as if the sea gave birth and then withdrew. But that's not how nature works. The ocean never stopped being a womb. It simply expanded its boundaries. Even today, every cell in your body is surrounded by water. Inside little oceans exist, microscopic seas where life continues to unfold. Proteins fold and unfold like waves. Ions flow like currents. Every thought, every emotion, every movement depends on that liquid balance. Without water, there is no heartbeat, no electricity in your nerves, no shape to your cells. Without water, there is no you. Scientists call this aqueous miracle. The idea that water is not just a backdrop, but an active participant in the creation of life. Its structure, a simple molecule H2O, hides an astonishing ability to dissolve, to carry, to connect. It's the ultimate communicator. It allows reactions to meet that would never otherwise find each other. It allows energy to move, nutrients to travel, signals to pass. It is, in every sense, life's language. But beyond the chemistry, there's poetry in it too. Because in water's nature, its willingness to change, to flow, to adapt, we find the blueprint of life's resilience. No matter what happens, the planet freezes, burns, or transforms, water finds a way to remain. It hides as vapor in the sky, as ice beneath mountains, as droplets in our breath. And when conditions are right, it returns, softly, patiently, ready to begin the story again. So, when we say life began in the ocean, what we truly mean is that life is the ocean remembering itself in coral reefs, in rainforests, in rivers, in human tears. Every living being is the sea, momentarily taking shape. If you close your eyes and listen closely, you can still hear the first ocean speaking through time, a hum beneath your thoughts, a soft reminder that before there was form, there was flow, and in that flow, something eternal learned to dream. We move from ancient oceans to the evolution of life, to echoes of the sea within our own biology and emotions. This is chapter 2, The Memory of the Sea. Every drop of water holds a memory, not in the mystical sense, but in the quiet persistence of pattern. Each molecule of H2O has been broken apart and reassembled more times than you can imagine. Frozen in a glacier, fallen as rain, breathed out as vapor from the lungs of a whale, or from your own breath seconds ago. Water remembers by continuing. It doesn't cling, it circulates, and through that circulation, the story of life never ends. Billions of years ago, in those ancient oceans, the first organisms drifted through the dark like sparks waiting to ignite. Each one carried with it the same element that birthed it: water. Within that liquid cocoon, information began to organize itself. Patterns of molecules formed codes, and those codes became DNA. It was here that memory, in its truest form, began. DNA is, in many ways, the ocean's diary. It writes not with ink, but with sequence. Four simple letters repeating endlessly: A, D, C, and G. A pattern that holds the memory of everything that has ever lived. And water is what allows that memory to exist. Inside your cells, DNA doesn't float in emptiness. It floats in molecular sea, a thin shimmering fluid that cushions and connects. Thus water carries signals, proteins, energy. It helps your genetic code fold itself properly, like origami shaped by invisible hands. Without that gentle surrounding sea, your DNA could not survive. So even now, billions of years later, every cell in your body still keeps a small piece of the ocean inside it, a reminder of where it came from, and perhaps of what it once felt like to be part of something vast. When scientists first compared human blood to seawater, they found something astonishing: the salt composition. Sodium, chloride, magnesium, potassium mirrors that of the ancient ocean. Different concentrations, yes, but the same essence. It's as if evolution didn't replace the sea, it carried it forward. The ocean moved inside us, flowing now through arteries instead of currents. So when you feel the tide of your heartbeat, when you hear the rush of blood in your ears, you're hearing the sea remembering itself. Every living thing carries that memory differently. The jellyfish still adrift, like a ghost from prehistory. The whale whose songs travel thousands of miles through deep blue corridors. The human who builds cities and dreams of stars, yet still needs to drink the same water as the first microbe did. Water has shaped not just our biology, but our evolution itself. When the first creatures crawled from the ocean onto land, they carried the sea with them in the form of blood, lymph, tears. They had to, or they would have died. Land was foreign, dry, silent. So they brought the memory of the sea wherever they went. That memory became survival. Even our language remembers it. We speak of currents of thought, of waves of emotion. We describe ideas as flowing and people as fluid when they adapt. Every metaphor for change, for life, for emotion returns to water. Maybe because somewhere deep in our unconscious, we still know that everything that moves, breathes, or feels is just the ocean reshaped. Some scientists now believe that water itself holds a kind of structural memory, that its molecules, through their hydrogen bonds, can form fleeting patterns influenced by what passes through them. A magnetic field, a sound, a vibration. Though this remains debated, the poetic truth remains. Water listens. It carries impressions of its journey, not as conscious thought, but as pattern and resonance. In that sense, the ocean is a library. Every drop holds echoes of volcanoes and plankton, of storms and whales, of laughter and tears. A story written not in words but in waves. And just as the ocean remembers, so do we. When you float in the sea, eyes closed, the salt water against your skin, your body recognizes it. Something ancient inside you sighs. I've been here before. You are not learning the ocean, you are remembering it. The ocean doesn't simply surround life, it contains its memory of struggle, of transformation, of persistence. It is the original witness to evolution's slow miracle. And every raindrop that lands on your skin tonight is part of the same story. A particle that once flowed through coral reefs, once froze in polar ice, once evaporated from the breath of an ancestor who looked at the sea and felt the same quiet awe that you feel now. We are, each of us, made of borrowed waves, temporary vessels of the ocean's long memory. And when we return to it, in thought, in tears, in death, it takes us back without hesitation. Because to the sea, there is no loss, only continuation. Chapter 3: The Pulse Beneath the Surface. If you could listen to the earth, truly listen, you would hear a slow, deep rhythm, a pulse that rises and falls, not in seconds, but in centuries, the sound of an ocean breathing. Beneath its calm surface, the sea is alive with motion. Currents twist like veins. Tides inhale and exhale across continents. And deep below, when no sunlight ever reaches, the cold water sinks, carrying oxygen, nutrients, and the planet's quiet memory with it. This is not a random movement, it's circulation, the lifeblood of the world. Every drop that drifts through these underwater highways connects distant corners of the planet. A molecule that begins its journey in the Indian Ocean might one day resurface in the Arctic, changed but still moving. The oceans are Earth's lungs, its heart, and its memory all at once. Every wave, every ripple, every rise of tide is part of that grand rhythm. You can almost think of the tides as the planet's breath, inhaling when the water draws toward the shore, exhaling as it slips away again. This rhythm is ancient, older than memories, older than the moon's first glow upon the sea. It is the moon, of course, that guides its breath. Her gravity pulls at the ocean like a lover's hand, lifting and lowering its chest twice a day. That gentle pull is what keeps the seas moving, and in turn keeps the world alive. Because this endless motion, this patient pulse, is what regulates everything. The ocean stores and releases heat like a vast breathing lung. It absorbs the sun's warmth, holds it close, and then exhales it into the air. Without it, Earth would be a world of extremes, frozen at night, burning by day. But because of water's grace, temperatures stay balanced, seasons flow gently, and life continues to breathe. The ocean is also the great storyteller of time. It holds within its layers echoes of ages, ancient ice cores, sediment whispers, fossils of tiny beings that once floated in sunlight. If you could read it, you would find the diary of a planet, written in temperatures, salt, and current. Every shift tells a story. When volcanoes erupted, when forests grew, when humanity arrived. And humanity too is bound to this pulse, even if we have forgotten how to listen. When rain falls, when rivers rise, when clouds drift, that is the ocean moving through us. Our crops, our breath, our very sleep patterns are tied to it. When ocean temperatures shift, weather shifts. Monsoons grow gentle or fierce. Winds change direction. The invisible pulse beneath the surface ripples into every life on land. Scientists call this vast movement the global conveyor belt, a circulation system that carries warmth and nutrients around the planet. It moves slowly, taking nearly 1,000 years to complete one full cycle. Imagine that. A single loop of ocean current lasting longer than any civilization we have ever built. A planetary heartbeat too slow for us to hear, but constant, patient, eternal. And within that rhythm, life thrives. Tiny plankton rise each morning toward the sunlight and sink back down when darkness falls. Fish migrate following invisible trails of current. Whales sing through the deep, their voices traveling across oceans, as if to remind one another that they are not alone in this vast moving world. Even the coral reefs, still and silent to the eye, pulse gently with the tides. Every creature, from the smallest to the largest, dances to the same ancient rhythm, the ocean's breath. But this balance is delicate. Even the pulse falters. When the waters grow too warm or too acidic, the whole planet feels it. The breath becomes uneven, the rhythm stumbles, and the first time in billions of years, the ocean hesitates. So water endures, it adjusts, it flows, it tries again. Because the ocean doesn't know despair, it only knows movement. And perhaps that's the lesson it's been whispering to us all along. That resilience is not a role, but a tide that returns again and again. So the next time you stand at the shore, feel that pull on your feet, the wave reaching for you before it falls away again. That's the ocean's pulse, the same rhythm that once stirred molecules into life, that carried the first cells through darkness, that still moves through your veins tonight. It's the earth breathing, as though it is you. Chapter 4, The Song of the Rain. If the ocean is the planet's heart, then the rain is its breath made visible. Every drop that falls is an exhale, a sigh released from the sea, carried upward into the sky, then falling back home again. The story of rain begins in sunlight. When the morning light touches the ocean's surface, it stirs something ancient and gentle. Evaporation. Molecules of water warmed by the sun rise into the air, invisible, weightless, free. It's as if the sea dreams of flight, and through vapor, it learns to touch the sky. From there, these droplets gather and cool. They meet other travelers, dust, salt, pollen, tiny seeds around which clouds are born. Up there, in that grey-blue cathedral of vapor, millions of drops wait, suspended between becoming and falling. The wind sings through them. Temperature shifts coax them closer until finally the moment of release. Rain. The first drop falls, and with it, gravity begins the planet's song again. It touches the leaves, the stone, the skin of a child standing in wonder. It fills rivers, feeds soil, quenches roots, and eventually, inevitably, it returns to the sea. This endless journey, ocean to sky, sky to land, land to ocean, is the breath of the planet itself. We call it the water cycle, but it's more than a system. It's poetry in motion. Because every step of that journey mirrors the rhythm of life. Inhalation and exhalation, expansion and return, birth and renewal. When rain falls on a forest, it carries the ocean's memory into the green. Roots draw it in, leaves release it back. A tree breathes water as much as air, and so does the soil beneath your feet. Tiny organisms living in darkness, drinking the sky through the ground. And we too are part of that exchange. Every breath you take carries water vapor from your lungs, a small contribution to the atmosphere's endless dance. You exhale a piece of yourself into the same air that once held clouds, and somewhere, perhaps, that vapor will condense and fall again as rain, touching the skin of someone you'll never meet. That's the quiet beauty of it. Nothing we release is ever truly lost. The universe is built on return. When you drink from a glass of water, you're drinking rain that once fell on ancient forests, that once washed over dinosaurs, that once evaporated from the very first oceans. Every sip is a conversation across time. The water that fills your veins right now may have fallen as snow on the Himalayas 1,000 years ago. It may have flowed through the Nile, or lingered in a cloud above the Pacific, or glimmered in the eye of a whale. It may have once been part of a tear, or it may have been part of a prayer. That is the secret of rain. It connects everything that ever was. And when it falls, the planet listens. You can hear it in the hush of soil, the slow heartbeat of rivers, the sigh of trees drinking deeply. The earth doesn't just receive the rain, it responds. The fragrance that rises from the ground after rain, petrichor, is the earth's quiet thank you. A perfume born from life reawakening, the scent of reunion. Even the thunder and lightning that accompany storms serve their purpose. A sudden exhale of energy, clearing the air, charging the sky, rebalancing the invisible fields that keep weather alive. The storm may sound violent, but in truth, it is a kind of healing, a reset of the planet's lungs. In this grand exchange, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, flow, we see the very blueprint of existence. Nothing is static. Everything rises, transforms, and returns. And that includes us. We too live in cycles of breath, of emotion, of thought, of time. We rise, we fall, we change, and eventually we return to where we began. The ocean knows this, the rain remembers it, and somewhere inside you, in the rhythm of your breath, in the water that fills your cells, you remember it too. Chapter 5: The Mirror of the Mind. Scientists have long known that water plays a role far beyond hydration. It shapes our cognition, our mood, our perception of reality itself. A dehydrated brain struggles to think, to dream, to remember. When we drink, we are not just quenching thirst, we are restoring clarity to the mirror of the mind. And yet, water's relationship with consciousness may be deeper still. Some physicists and neuroscientists believe that the structure of water, its strange ability to organize, bond, and reform, may hold clues to how information is transmitted at the cellular level. Water is not a passive backdrop, it is an active participant in life's awareness. It listens, it reacts, it shapes. Imagine this. When two molecules of hydrogen join with one of oxygen, they don't simply combine, they form an angle, a shape, a tiny electric polarity. This polarity allows water to bond with almost anything, to hold memory, to share energy, to dissolve barriers. In a sense, water is the great connector between atom and atom, between thought and thought, between you and everything around you. Maybe that's why humans have always been drawn to it. Why we find peace beside rivers, why we seek comfort in baths, why listening to rain feels like hearing your own heartbeat played back to us. The body recognizes the sound. The mind relaxes into its rhythm, its home. Across cultures and centuries, water has always been seen as sacred, a cleanser of spirit, a symbol of rebirth, a vessel of reflection. In ancient temples, priests bathed before prayer. In myths, rivers divided the world of the living from the dead. In stories, heroes crossed oceans to find truth. And even now, when you stand at the edge of the sea, something inside you grows quiet. The noise fades. You begin to listen again. Water teaches us that peace is not the absence of motion, it is motion balanced. It is the gentle rhythm of letting go and returning. And when we begin to mirror that, when we learn to flow rather than resist, to yield rather than shatter, we rediscover what it means to be alive, to move, to feel, to adapt, like water does. So perhaps the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but an ocean to be understood. Every thought a wave, every memory a current, every emotion a tide rising and falling in the moonlight of awareness. When you close your eyes tonight, imagine that your consciousness as a vast shimmering sea, each thought dissolving like foam at the edge of the infinite. And in that stillness, you may hear it once more, the ocean's breath, quietly moving through the mind that remembers it. Chapter 6: The Ocean Inside You. You're not made of the ocean. You are the ocean remembering itself. Every cell in your body, every heartbeat, every breath is a small wave in the vast continuation of that first sea. When you touch your wrist and feel the pulse beneath the skin, you are feeling tides, the ancient rhythm of a planet still moving through you. We often think of the body as solid, but we are mostly water, a shimmering architecture of rivers, currents, and tides contained by skin. More than 70% of you is liquid. Your brain, your heart, your muscles, all oceans in miniature. Your blood is salt water. Your tears are salt water. Even the amniotic fluid that cradled you before birth, your first home, was a sea. And that's no coincidence. Doom is a small echo of the ocean that first gave birth to life. When you floated there, eyes closed, heartbeat steady, you were living in the memory of the planet's beginning. Your mother carried within her the same environment the earth once did: warm, serene, nurturing, timeless. It's as if life never truly left the sea. It simply carried it inward, so that even when we walk upon dry land, the tides still move through us. Inside you, water flows like thought. It transports oxygen through the bloodstream, delivers nutrients, removes waste, carries messages from one part of the body to another. It's not just a medium, it's a messenger. Every cell listens to its rhythm. Every heartbeat stirs it. Every breath renews it. Your heart, for example, beats about 100,000 times a day, pushing rivers of blood through more than 60,000 miles of vessels. That's the same pattern the waves follow. Surge, retreat, surge again. Not mechanical, but rhythmic. A conversation between flow and form. If you could see inside yourself, you would see the same hydrological patterns that shape the world. Rivers branching through your veins like tributaries. Cells suspended in fluid like plankton in the sea. The lymphatic system quietly draining and cleansing, like rain returning to the ocean. The same laws that move the tides move you. Gravity, pressure, rhythm, balance. You are not ruled by them, you are them. To live is to flow. Think of this: the water in your veins may once have passed through the roots of a tree, through the clouds above the Atlantic, through the body of a creature long extinct. You carry within you fragments of the Amazon, of glaciers, of ancient rain. You're not a single being. You are a continuation of countless forms of life, all held together by flow. In truth, the body is not a container for life. It is a tide pool, ever changing, ever renewing. Old cells die, new ones form, and through it all, water carries the continuity. The same water that once filled the oceans of prehistory now flows quietly behind your heartbeat. Chapter 7: The Future Tide. The ocean has always been patient. It has watched continents drift, species rise and vanish, climates freeze and thaw. It has seen stars reflected in its surface long before humans ever lifted their eyes to the sky. But even patience has limits. For the first time in billions of years, the ocean's rhythm is beginning to change. Not because of the shifting of the moon, but because of the choices of a single species, us. We have become the latest force shaping its tides. Our industries burn, our cities hum, our plastic floats. Rivers, once carrying mountain rain, now carry waste. The air thickens with the breath of our machines, and the sea, ever the listener, absorbs it all. Water has always known how to balance, how to dissolve and transform. But there is a weight now that even it struggles to carry. Every second, the ocean absorbs more than a quarter of the carbon dioxide we release. It takes it in quietly, trying to protect the air we breathe. But that kindness comes at a cost. The chemistry changes. The waters grow more acidic. Coral reefs, those intricate underwater cities, begin to fade, their colors dissolving like memory into gray. In the polar regions, ice melts faster than ever before, pouring ancient fresh water into the sea. Currents shift, temperatures rise, storms grow fierce and unpredictable. The balance, that delicate planetary heartbeat, begins to stutter. And yet, still, the ocean tries. It holds on. It keeps breathing. Because water does not know how to give up. It has never known stillness. Its purpose is movement. Even in damage, it seeks renewal. Even in ruin, it finds a way to sustain life. The plankton continue to bloom, tiny invisible forests that make half the oxygen we breathe. Whales still sing through the depths, their voices low prayers in the dark. And every time it rains, the ocean still reaches for the sky, still sends its breath upward in hope of return. The question now is not whether the ocean can endure, it always has. The question is whether we will learn to move with it again instead of against it. Because we forget we are mostly water. When we harm the ocean, we harm the memory within ourselves. When the seas acidify, when coral dies, when rivers dry, something inside us dims too. The connection weakens, the rhythm falters. But just as every wave that crashes eventually retreats, so too can we return to balance, to humility, to awareness. Across the world, small movements rise like ripples. Communities restoring mangroves, protecting reefs, cleaning rivers, reducing waste. Scientists mapping currents and tracking temperatures. Artists painting tides. Children learning that every plastic bottle, every drop of oil, every action flows somewhere beyond the horizon. It begins with recognition. The ocean does not need saving. It needs remembering. It needs us to remember what we are, temporary forms of its flow, borrowers of its breath. The water in your veins is the same water that moves through whales, through clouds, through glaciers. There is no separation, only continuation. And maybe that's where hope lives, not in denial of what's been lost, but in reverence of what still remains. If we could see the ocean not as a resource, but as a relative, not as a thing, but as a being, we might begin to listen again, to slow down, to protect what protects us, and to let gratitude replace extraction. The ocean doesn't ask for worship, only for balance, for the rhythm to return. Water is the thread that weaves the world together. It links cloud to river, whale to mountain, you to everything else. It's a soft architecture of connection, invisible but everywhere. And in that connection, there is something sacred, not religious, not mystical, just profoundly real. Because when you trace every form of life back far enough, every heartbeat, every leaf, every breath, you end up in the same place, a drop of water suspended in darkness, learning how to become alive. And that's where everything began, and perhaps where everything returns. The ocean doesn't fear endings. It knows that endings are just another form of motion. A wave doesn't vanish when it breaks. It becomes the sea again, just as we will someday. Maybe that's what water has been teaching us all along. That to flow is to live, and to return is not to disappear, but to join everything that ever was. When you stand by the shore and the tide curls around your feet, you're standing at the boundary between what has been and what will be. The ocean touches you not as a stranger, but as something it's known forever. And as it retreats, it doesn't leave, it simply promises to return. So tonight, as the world quiets, as you lie beneath the ceiling of the sky, remember that the ocean never sleeps. It moves beneath the stars, carrying your reflection across its surface. Somewhere, waves break on distant shores. Somewhere, rain falls softly on the skin of the earth. Somewhere, deep in the dark, a single drop of water divides and begins again. That's the secret of it all. Life never truly ends. It only changes shape, just as water does. So close your eyes now. Listen. Can you hear it? That faint, slow rhythm, the breath beneath your breath. That's not the ocean outside you, that's the one within. It's been here all along, waiting for you to remember that you, too, are part of its tide, that you are water dreaming of itself. And as you drift into sleep, the ocean drifts with you, its waves gentle, its song unending, its breath rising and falling in the dark. Until morning, until again, until forever. Because the ocean never stops breathing, and neither do you.